And so it must be a thing when you're making a movie that the dinner scene, that is the linchpin of your film. I love this. I love this movie.
A lot of people do. Again, I'm the outsider here, you know.
Yeah.
I'll be over here watching the change-up. Also, let's give credit to her ability to scream.
Oh my God,
She's a good screamer.
She is.
Welcome now officially to spooky season, I think, since we're into October. I know for a lot of us, it's a year-round thing. It's a commitment. It's a lifestyle. But now we welcome everyone to the fold, and we're going to celebrate with a little dinner party. Welcome. This is the Fright Club podcast, and she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we're going to talk about dinners, the best dinner scenes in horror. I think did this idea come out of the podcast group?
Maddie, yeah.
On Facebook.
Yep,
yeah.
Fright Clubber Maddie on Facebook asked, she was working on a project for school and asked sort of the group what were some great dinner scenes in horror movies. And so I want to acknowledge a lot of what came up there. And then, of course, we've just put together our favorites, disregarding all of those suggestions.
Yeah, and if that sounded, if your ears perked up, what? Group podcast? Yes. If you're new to the Fright Club podcast, welcome. We'd love to have you in the Fright Club podcast. It's a private group. I've thought about just opening it up, but I don't know. You get the riffraff. And we
love riffraff. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but it's our riffraff. It's our invited riffraff, our requested riffraff. So anyway, we'd love to have you. If you're not in the Facebook group, we have some fun talking about horror movies and just general shenanigans. You can find it Fright Club Podcast group on Facebook. So that's where this came from. And Maddie, we thank you. She's always putting together nice little lists.
Yeah, she is.
In fact, I saw today she had at her place, she had a Jaws watch party.
Oh, yeah. It was
a bad idea to watch Jaws.
No, but
and they went all out.
There were two dogs who were dressed like sharks, and that's the push over the cliff. That's the party I want to go to.
Yeah, and they had this nice. It was like a bowl, a shark's mouth bowl of course, goldfish. And it took everything I had to not comment, we're going to need a bigger bowl. But that's probably dad joke material, and I moved on. Anyway, well done, Maddie, for the party and for this idea. So before we get to that, we had the last time out, Fright Club Podcast was a live one at Gateway Film Center, and we talked about The Baby Made Me Do It.
That's right. How pregnancy changes you.
Don't I know it? No.
So not just your run-of-the-mill, because pregnancy horror, that's a whole other category. But this is specifically, the baby made me do it, how pregnancy changes you and maybe turns you into a monster, or maybe the baby's a monster, whatever.
Which is kind of funny because right now, out in horror, we have two movies.
This
two
week,
brand
this
new
week,
movies.
I know.
Yeah. If you check out our regular reviews on madwolf.com or our other podcast, The Screening Room, we talk about two new movies this week that could qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. Deliver Us, which is about sexy priest and a sexy nun. As you pointed out, they really felt like the exorcism genre didn't have enough hanky-panky, I guess, enough sexy.
Right, but they have twins. The nun is pregnant with twins, and they talk to her. And they're telling her, one of us is the Antichrist and one of us is the Messiah. So that's a problem.
Yeah. And then there's another one right now on Shudder, a Norwegian horror film called Nightmare. And it takes some turns. Is
it sexy?
There is sex.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes some turns. It's not the best film I've seen, but I enjoyed it. Some performances are great, and it packs a wallop there.
And that's
in
on
the end.
Shudder.
So yeah, that's on
and the
Shudder.
other one, Deliver Us, is in theaters.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So and then, a lot of people. Again, it was such a narrow topic, right? Because again, it wasn't really pregnancy horror exactly. It was pretty narrow in there, but still there were a couple. And it's funny, Maddie, who we keep going back to, the first thing she thought of was Isolation, which I find funny. It's an Irish horror film that we showed actually a few years ago in Fright Club, but it's not people who are pregnant; it's the cows. And so I thought that was funny.
All right.
And then the other one Dustin brought up, and I think Richard might have also agreed with this, and we kicked it around, is Slither. Just the one.
Yeah, the one.
You know the character.
You know the one.
You know the one. And I kept going back and forth. Like, is she pregnant? Is that so? Anyway,
she's hungry.
She's hungry. So that one was on the short list, and in my head, I just kept thinking, I'm not sure. I think she's pregnant. So anyway, but anytime you can watch the movie Slither, you should.
So a lot of good feedback there. We thank you. We are heading back to Gateway Film Center for the October edition of the Fright Club podcast. And that will be appropriately enough Friday the 13th. Again, we've cleared it with Taylor Swift. We have her blessing, so we're going to be back there, and we're going to be talking about...
Backwoods Messiahs.
I love it.
It's a good
Backwoods
topic.
Messiah.
I'm excited for that.
And that's part of an action-packed October, not only for us, but for the Gateway Film Center. If you aren't aware, Nightmares Film Festival is coming up October 26th through the 29th. A can't-miss event for horror fans. Man, if you're anywhere in the area of our area here in Columbus, Ohio, make plans to join us. It's just fantastic. We would love to see you.
Yeah, we'll be there. We're going to bring our cot. We're just going to set up a cot back there.
That's right. They're used to us by now. But so that should be fun. So we're looking at dinner scenes, and we've got a bunch. Do we have 6 or 5? We have 5.
We have
right?
5.
But a bunch of very deserving honorable mentions.
Yes. So I want to start with a couple that really, really nearly made it, and one is The Invitation. So that, it's such a good movie. Karen Kusama, it's such a good movie. And the dinner scene itself, of course, is where everything turns. It's, highly recommended. It's a great movie. Also, the menu. There are about 50 different specific dinner scenes. Tortilla. This is the one that's... but that's a movie of just nothing but dinner scenes.
We love the menu so much.
All of them brilliant. Love the menu. The one of this that was the closest to actually making the final list, and probably maybe should have just been number 6, Hereditary.
Hereditary. Yeah.
I Am Your Mother.
Love it. I think you skipped over, on the list I'm looking at, you skipped over Hannibal.
Right. Hannibal, I don't think it was going to make the list, but it's a great moment where he eats his own brain.
Yeah, it is. Just the look on Ray Liotta's faces. Yeah.
Krampus has a great dinner scene. You're Next has a great one. Hosts is not to be confused with any of the 3 different horror films called Hosts with an S at the end. It's not a good movie, but the dinner scene is worth watching. Deranged is another one from the mid-70s that has a great dinner scene, even though the whole movie isn't great. Noriko's Dinner Table, it's a weird one. It's a prequel to Suicide Club. So if you haven't seen Suicide Club, because Suicide Club doesn't make a ton of sense, like it's a good movie, but it's one that keeps you guessing and doesn't sort of dot all of its I's. So if you haven't seen that, this movie might not make any sense to you at all, but it leads up to a very fascinating, super bloody dinner scene. Also, Society, I'm not sure it counts as dinner, what happens there with the shunting, but again, watch it. Watch Society. Invisible Man.
Yeah, that's a good one because it's near the end. It's the comeuppance, and it's great. And also, there were a couple that really, one of the first ones I thought of was not a horror movie. Well, actually, no. Let's go back because the first thing I thought of, as you know, is the dinner song from The Change Up.
Sing it for us.
And now, hold on. If I sometimes feel like I have so much love for the Change Up. It's
not a horror film at all.
Not
comedy.
a horror film at all. It's Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds, and one of those, they switch bodies, they switch personalities.
A Freaky Friday kind of thing.
It's a Freaky Friday thing. I thought it was just hilarious, and so many people, sometimes I feel like everybody else, hated it. I laughed so hard. Well, first of all, I love Jason Bateman.
Yep.
Jason Bateman, I think he has one of the all-time great knacks for comic timing.
Oh, yes.
Just perfect. And so at one point, he's in Ryan Reynolds' body, and he's the husband of Leslie Mann and the kids, and they think he's, the regular husband, but he's not. He's got his new personality, and he's expected to sing the dinner song at dinner. He has no idea what they're talking about, so he's just like, dinner song.
Beans, potatoes, carrots, and broccoli, buns, and salad, and potatoes, and chicken needs a licking. Dinner song.
That's what I think of. When I think of dinner scene, I immediately thought dinner song, and I've gone on too long. But The Change Up. Help me out. Check it out. All right, but no Sicario.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the greatest dinner scene maybe in history.
Lord.
Oh, my God. Not in front of the children. No, not in front of her family. Oh, my God.
Okay. He said, it's so intense.
Yeah, I remember being so shocked. I thought Benicio del Toro was a shoo-in for the Oscar. He didn't even get nominated.
That whole movie.
Oh, my God, he was...
That whole movie from start to finish was one of the most intense. I mean, from the beginning of the people in the wall.
Yeah, people in the wall. Yeah.
I mean...
God, I love Sicario.
Leading up to that dinner scene, it's so quietly intense, man. And then, as somebody rightly pointed out, Krisha.
Yeah, I think that was Maddie again.
I think so. That was the first film for Trey Edward Schultz, and he put basically his family in it, including Krisha.
Yeah.
Krisha Fairchild. And she's great, and the movie is such a low-budget gem, and it's awkward.
Yeah.
And she is such a character, and that is an awkward dinner. So all those are good, including the dinner song.
I can't remember if I said Krampus. It's on my list,
Did
but
you say
I jumped around.
Okay, yeah,
so
Krampus.
I can't remember, but Krampus has a good dinner scene.
Good stuff. So a lot. a lot there as we get into the 5 that you narrowed it down to. And actually, a few of these, anyway, well, maybe all of them, are ones that we've talked. Oh yeah, all of them are ones that we've talked about a lot.
They're all favorites.
Yeah, but we're talking about specifically
specific moments.
These dinner scenes. Even though they're movies that we've talked about a lot for a good reason. So let's dive into number 5, and this is an all-time classic from 1932. A circus's beautiful trapeze artist agrees to marry the leader of sideshow performers, but his deformed friends discover she is only marrying him for his inheritance. Todd Browning's Freaks.
A loving cup, a loving cup. We accept a one of us. We accept a one of us.
Gooba gobble, gooba gobble.
We accept her, we accept her. Google gobble, Google gobble. One of us, one of us. Google gobble.
They're going to make you one of them. My peacock. Gooba gobble.
Yes, this has, obviously, it's legendary for many, many reasons. But in the dinner scene, of course, comes out that line that we hear over and over again.
Yeah, one of us. Google gobble, one of us, one of us. And I think one of the reasons that this makes the list is because that scene alone, is really what propelled this film into iconic status, because it was really controversial. The film was when it came out. It essentially was the end of Todd Browning's career, that plus his alcoholism.
Yeah, it was. The funny thing is, we bring that up. The film, yes, was banned in a number of states and cities, but a lot of those states and cities still have those archaic laws on the books. You find that you look those up sometimes, you get these weird facts about these weird laws that are actually still on the books. So technically, in a lot of cities, it may still be illegal to show this film,
right?
Although they're not going to enforce it, but those laws are still on the books today, some of them.
And there's definitely reasonable controversy
around
the film as to whether or not the performers gave their consent, could give their consent, but
especially since some back then, some disavowed it after it did come out, and that's not a good look either.
No, but if you can get past that, I think that it's, first of all, it's a really groundbreaking film. It's a pretty amazing film, and that scene, because the film is from the point of view of the freaks. And that scene, it's just this group of outsiders who are saying, we accept you. And it's a turning point in the movie because she is so pissed off.
Yes.
She is so pissed off that they would think that, that their acceptance of her is of any value.
Yeah.
And it's really the crux of the entire movie, that scene. And
she's kind of drunk. She and the guy have been drinking, and then she's putting a lot of attention on
Hercules,
and then, of course, his face when the guy comes in and kisses her, and he's just so hurt and so mad. But and then the look on her face when
they're all singing to her, we accept you.
It is. It's such a turning point in the movie.
But I think it just, it just galvanized really horror fans, because a lot of times horror fans feel like outsiders, and they gravitate toward this concept of the group of outsiders. We're the group, you're the outsider. And I think that's why I think that's why there are so many just legions of fans who not only love this movie but relate to that statement, one of us.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's a big turning point in the movie because of the viewpoints and the different feelings that you can just see really on their faces.
Yes, absolutely.
On the characters' faces.
Yeah.
A lot of them that are singing, they're joyful.
Yeah,
they're
they
joyful
absolutely
because
are.
They're happy for them. Hey, we accept you. Yeah, and then she has the opposite reaction. It's heartbreaking at the same time.
It really is.
It really is, and that's a very iconic movie, and the dinner scene is a big part of it, and that is from 1932, Todd Browning's Freaks. Let's move up about 60 years. This is one that, we've talked about a lot with 2 titles. A young man's mother is bitten by a Sumatran rat monkey. She gets sick and dies, at which time she comes back to life, killing and eating dogs, nurses, friends, and neighbors. It's brain dead / dead alive.
I'll have a few of those, lad.
I really think we should be going, dear. Thank you, Lionel.
What? No pudding?
Only custard, I'm afraid.
Custard? I haven't had a good custard in years. She never makes the stuff. Damn fine custard.
This is, of course, Peter Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And Is this the grossest dinner scene that we have on this list?
It
because
is.
you've got
Easily.
ears falling off
Yeah.
and
pus in the custard. Oh my God. Oh
That's
my God.
damn good custard.
Oh yeah, I gotta say. So I mean, I love this movie.
I don't.
I know you don't. It's quite possibly my favorite Peter Jackson film. Although Heavenly Creatures would be neck and neck with it.
Yeah.
Heavenly Creatures is a great movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, I recognize he's made, he's got Oscars for this whole other wing of movies that he makes, and of course that Beatles movie, and then oh my God, the other documentary about World War I.
They shall not grow old.
Right. So
Yeah.
anyway, he's one of the greatest filmmakers ever.
His King Kong is great.
Yeah, his King Kong is great, and it's underappreciated. Yeah, he's a great filmmaker.
But you like this.
I love this. I love this movie.
A lot
I
of people do. Again, I'm the outsider here,
Yeah.
I'll be over here watching the change-up.
But, and this is just a sloppy, bloody movie. And blood I'm very comfortable with, very cool with. The whole lawnmower and the, just limbs and guts and everything. But other body fluids I have real trouble with, as you know. There was a commercial for a while. It was like a deodorant commercial, and and in the ad, somebody would like lift their arm and then like water would shoot out from their underarm like in the face of somebody else.
This real hairy guy.
And I would like hit the ground. I mean, I could not bear to see it. I would have to. I mean, I'm in remembrance of it. I am holding my hands over my eyes.
The other one that you hated, I think it was just a cartoon, but when the lifted up, no, they lifted up the toenail.
The toenail. Oh my God! Yeah. So anyway, the dinner scene from this movie is incredibly hard for me to watch. I can barely stomach it,
Yeah.
and that's the point. That's the point of this movie. And it's, again, I mean, so often it's the dinner scene in these movies that is the turning point of the film, because it's during the dinner scene where Lionel Cosgrove realizes that Mom, Vera, is going to be a bigger problem than he thought, she was going to. And then pretty soon his basement is full of cadavers that are still trying to eat things and stuff. But, the reason that it made the list is because it is so fucking gross. I can barely watch it.
I do appreciate the way he filmed it. Very disorienting, very from the point of view of the anxiety of Lionel as he's watching what's going on with his dinner guest. And it kind of zooms in on his face and zooms away and then zooms in on the guy eating custard and zooms away.
And
Plus
then his wife,
even before they add anything to the custard, it looks gross.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, Lionel is carrying it out, in the 4 bowls, and it's such a sick color, and it's just wobbly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. And the woman dinner guest, she's so anxious. She's looking over at Vera, who's repeating herself, and you can see the woman trying to like coach her on as to what she wants to say, and oh my God. And then of course her husband, who's just oblivious to it all. No pudding. It's a great scene. It's a great scene.
It's a scene. The dinner scene, the damn good custard scene from 1992's Brain Dead, Dead Alive. That's number 4 on our list of dinner scenes in horror. So let's go up to number 3, one of our beloveds from 1975. A newly engaged couple have a breakdown in an isolated area and must seek shelter at the bizarre residence of Dr. Frankenfurter. The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Excellent. Under the circumstances, formal dress is to be optional.
One of the great things about this time of year, when the calendar turns, I see so many posts where they have a picture of Tim Curry, like from Clue, something nice and refined, September 30th. And then the next panel is October 1st, and it's Frankenfurter in all his glory. So,
oh, my God, yeah. Just one of the greatest characters in the history of film, Frankenfurter. And it's a movie that is chock full of iconic characters. And, of course, Tim Curry's career is chock full of iconic characters, right? Pennywise and the Satan in Legend. And he's just so great in everything he does. And, it's funny, I keep saying it. And so it must be a thing when you're making a movie that the dinner scene, that is the linchpin of your film. That is where everything changes. And I think it's because when you're eating dinner with a big group of people, it's like there are the people who eat together all the time. So there's this lived-in dynamic. And then there are the people who are new to it, and you witness so many things. There's always a power sort of hierarchy. Secrets are unveiled. It can be very uncomfortable anyway. We'll get to that in the next one, where if you're the outsider, it's like you're not positive exactly what the correct sort of appropriate behavior is. I mean, the dinner scene is just so dinner scenes can be just so fraught. So they're easy to mine for the tension or the and then so often that it's where everything changes.
Yeah, especially if it's either a comedy or a horror of manners.
Yes.
Of awkward. How do I act? And if the audience is meant to be that outsider, and what the point of view is. And of course, this one has all that, but then it also has the big reveal.
That's right.
The big reveal.
That's right.
Meatloaf.
And it starts with, of course, the big bong. Master, dinner is prepared.
Yeah.
There's so many great, and then, he's looking for Eddie. It's a tender subject. There's, it's just such, and then he's so angry because, of course, he's just discovered Rocky with Janet slut. And so when she's singing Happy Birthday, which is actually the other thing is that it's produced my all-time favorite meme, which is the Happy Birthday song, Happy Birthday to you. And then, he just cuts it short because he can hear Janet singing Happy Birthday. It's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about the scene is so fun.
And of course, as long-time Rocky Horror Picture Show fans know, when Barry Bostwick, Brad Major,
asshole.
Okay. Pounds his fist on the table during the scene. He accidentally actually pounded the hand of Susan Sarandon, and her reaction is prominent and very real.
Yep.
And then apparently she got her revenge by, quote, accidentally stepping on his foot with her heel during the floor show scene. His reaction is also visible. So if you missed that one, go back and check it out. But yeah, it's such a pivotal part of this movie because after we had already had the Hop Tootie Bless My Soul rousing number from Meatloaf Eddie and the motorcycle and all that, and then you find out what became of him when they pulled on the dinner table there. It's just, it's pretty shocking, and everybody.
And it's kind of a funny moment because of course Brad and Janet already know that he's dead. Mm-hmm. They already know that their host is a murderer, and they didn't hide anything. He came out, he chases him in there with an axe. He comes out, he's all covered in blood. But Brad and Janet were just going to, be okay with that. And of course, promptly both have sex with him. So it's funny. It's a funny thing that
they would have never. He tricked them.
It's a funny thing that it's not until you see the carcass and you know that's what they've been eating that, and even that when he says a tender subject, you can see Janet put it down oh. And then, of course, you see Rocky just continuing to gnaw away at it, which is a very funny. It's just such a great moment. And I think that's another thing about dinner scenes is because everybody gets a chance. It's such a great, that scene, to articulate specific characters and kind of where they're. We've had the introduction to all of them, but in that scene, you get a little bit of a sense of who's playing along, this is really happening right now. You get a little bit more about each character in that scene.
And then what's cool is even though after that scene, of course, Eddie Meatloaf is gone, we continue to hear his unmistakable voice throughout the soundtrack.
Yes.
And rightly so. I mean, he had such a strong voice at that time. You're not going to let it go to waste.
Right.
And he's all over those songs. You can hear him in the background. And it's also funny remembering, and I can't remember the name of it now, but years later, Meatloaf was in that horror movie about eating. He had him in the eating flesh. It was an episode
Tales from the Crypt.
of Tales from the Crypt.
Yes.
That's what it was. And he had a roadside diner or something.
Well, no, actually, Christopher Reeve had a roadside diner.
Right.
And they killed Meatloaf. He was the one that they were
hung
eating.
up in
yes,
the exactly. There it is. Okay.
And
got
once again, a tender subject.
a little bit confused. But the iconic dinner scene from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, 1975. That is number 3 on our list. Now, this is moving up to number 2, the one you were just referencing about manners and awkwardness when you're the new person at the table. That comes into play here for number 2 from 1977. Henry Spencer tries to survive his industrial environment, his angry girlfriend, and the unbearable screams of his newly born mutant child in Eraserhead.
I'm afraid to cut it, Mary usually does the carving, but maybe tonight you'll do it, Henry. All right with you?
Of course. I'd be happy to. Do I just cut them up like regular chickens?
Sure, just cut them up like regular chickens.
For many years, this was my favorite movie of all time. When I was in high school, when I was growing up, I loved this movie so much. And even now, I've seen this movie probably 50 times. that dinner scene makes me so uncomfortable because it's just David Lynch emphasizes the anxiety of this dinner scene so perfectly. And of course, these just surreal flourishes. And it's really, I think, the first time where we really sympathize and empathize with Henry. Like the whole rest of the movie, you're like, what is the deal with this guy? You know, you really don't connect with him. You really, but in this scene, suddenly, oh my God, everybody else is weirder than me. You know, his girlfriend is very angry. His girlfriend's mom is kind of orgasmic.
Yeah. Yes.
It's very unsettling.
Very weird.
The dad, you know, he just keeps smacking his arm.
Well, he tells that weird story.
Yeah.
And most of us, once we reach adulthood, have a situation in our past like this. You go over to meet somebody new. Yeah. You're the new person at the table. How do I act? I got to be polite. I got to listen to their dumbass stories. Yeah. So we're kind of along with him in that situation. And everybody's so weird. And then, Dad tells that weird story and tells him, you just carve it up. Just cut it like a chicken. And then once he starts to cutting it, then it gets even weirder.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of spurting.
Yeah, which reminded me, especially when I watched it again, like the day after, we just saw Peter Gabriel in concert, right?
Sledgehammer, yeah.
And the Sledgehammer video, those chickens when they're dancing around. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot going in the Sledgehammer video, but it's so unmistakable now when I watch that dinner scene. That had to be, come on. It had to be influenced.
I'm going to guess that Peter Gabriel is a David Lynch fan.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. But, that just ups it because once he starts cutting it and the chicken starts moving and sort of dancing and just the gushing just keeps coming.
Yeah.
And that's when Mom really gets into it.
Yeah. Which is, you know, of all the things, maybe what is most unsettling is what's going on with your mom right now.
Yeah, and then of course she can't handle it. Just goes up out of the room, gets up and leaves out of the room. But yeah, everything is just so strange. And really, Henry, well, nobody outside of the dad and his story talks a lot. No. You know, Henry asks about how to cut it, but he's just taking in this whole scene.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What the F?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what have I gotten myself into? What have I attached my life to? Yeah, it's all, I mean, the whole movie is just a masterpiece of discomfort. It's still one of my very favorite movies, but that scene, I don't know why dinner scenes strike me like they do, but you know, you can hide and be alone and be weird on your own, but then when you're thrust in this situation with all these people, like, you know, he's probably thinking to himself, I don't want to eat that. But now it's like he's the center of attention, and it's just the weirdest
because so often
scene.
in a regular dinner scene, you'll be hungry.
Yeah.
It'll make you hungry.
Yeah.
And not these.
No, right. No. That's really true. There are so many times where you're watching a movie and they get to where everybody's eating and you're like, oh, God, I wish I had eaten before I came here. But yeah, not any of these.
Yeah, this one especially will turn you off.
These are the ones to watch if you're trying to diet.
Yeah, we don't want to get some chicken wings after this. No. But yeah, the entire movie is anxiety and plays on anxieties about a whole many different things. Of course, the prevailing theory is about parenthood,
right?
But there's a lot more going on in this movie.
Adulthood, really. I think it's an anxious look at adulthood, about how dreary your life is bound to become.
Yeah, and I think David Lynch, throughout the years, has been either careful or it's just his way to just leave it up to you.
Oh,
He's
sure.
not going to spoon feed you anything about themes. It's up.
Right.
It's up to you.
And it's funny when he talks about not just this movie but any of the movies. You know, he always suggests he doesn't know. I don't know that that's true. He might be more of a sort of cagey, you know, PR man than we realize. But he always does is like, I don't know. I don't know what it means.
Well, really, even if he did, even if he said, look, this is what I meant.
Right.
Once art is out there, people take it. You can argue with people, as I often do, till I'm blue in the face, that Leonard Cohen did not write Hallelujah as a Christmas song.
Well, he clearly
anything
did not.
but.
Right.
But I've had people say, well, you know, he mentions
it's a Christmas song
David,
now.
and then it's a Christmas song now. And once art is out there, people take it for what they will. So Eraserhead, the dinner scene, and the chickens from 1977. It's just got it like a chicken. Now, moving up to number one, you probably know already. This is also from the 70s. 5 friends head out to rural Texas to visit the grave of a grandfather. On the way, they stumble across what appears to be a deserted house, only to discover something sinister within, something armed with a chainsaw. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's crazy! You gotta make us stop! Please!
Nothing. He's just a cook.
Shut up, you bitch hog.
You Leatherface do all the work. He don't like it, ain't that right? You're just a cook.
Shut your mouth! understand nothing. I understand you ain't nothing. Me and him do all the work. I just can't take no pleasure in killing. There's just some things you gotta do. Don't mean you have to like it.
I know. I hope people aren't disappointed. I mean, sometimes it does probably feel like I'm searching for topics that let me talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, this is another one that's just so iconic because how many times do you see that, just the still photo of all of them looking at her from her point of view? It's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, the camera work in this scene is magnificent for its purpose. And I love it for that, and I love it for the super extreme close-up of her bulging, veiny eyeballs, and I love all of that. I love the screaming. I love the way it's set up. But my favorite thing about this scene is, first of all, that it's fairly comical. It's the first time in the movie where you get the sense that, there is real humor afoot here. And then it's such a great depiction of family, of this family. It's like she's such an outsider here. And of course, they don't give a shit because she's about to die as far as they're concerned. But the way they interact with each other and the power struggle within the family feels so weirdly authentic.
It sets for you their roles in the family. Yeah, very much so.
Well, and of course, the fact that they're eating meat, of course. And one of the things I like about this movie is that honestly, it's not super heavy-handed about the cannibalism aspect of it, although clearly that is what they all are, and that's what's in their meat is they're eating these people that they're carving up and hanging behind that metal door. So, it's appropriate then that the whole film kind of comes to a crux at the dinner table where they're all looking at these plates of meat that are so tightly
Also, if you
sliced
study
for
the
them.
room, you've got, how the chairs are made and, the table and the chairs and the settings. And also, am I wrong about this? Is it the first time in the film that he's referred to as Leatherface?
It is,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's really the first time I think that you get a chance to see. I mean, it looks like he's really fancied himself up a little bit for the dinner.
He has, yes.
Which I love as well. I love, and I mean, and he makes he doesn't talk, of course, but he makes these sort of like noises, and they expand upon that in later, franchise films. But I just, and we've gotten to know the hitchhiker pretty well. He got to really showcase who he was as a character in the van. And of course, Leatherface is the main character of the film. He's the most memorable character, the one that you leave remembering the most. This is the one scene where I feel like we really get to know. So Jim Saito, who plays the old man or the cook, depending on the film, he's amazing in this scene. He's so evil, but he fancies himself as not being evil. But we already know he is because he was beaten on the bag in the car, in the truck, laughing to himself. And the way he sort of goes back and forth, he don't want no part in, in killing. It's just, it's such a magnificent performance.
Yeah, and you're right about bringing into a bit of a comedy aspect, but for me, it's not too much. Now, you know how I feel about part two.
I do
That
know.
goes way over the top into the silly comedy, which turned me completely off and still does. But this one has a little bit of that layer, but I don't think it ever tips the scale on
No,
it,
not at all.
Which is what keeps it horrific.
Right. I kind of feel like, it probably wasn't until I'd seen this multiple times that I picked up on the fact that this is a comedic scene. I think, the first 8 times I was still too traumatized by the whole movie.
But also, let's give credit to her ability to scream.
Oh my God, yes.
She's a good screamer.
She is.
And talking through screaming, but scream words.
Yes.
That can be hard.
Oh, no. You're right. We completely disregarded Marilyn Burns, who is amazing in this movie, and particularly in this scene. And it's, this is really, 1974, this really predates the slasher proper. It's one of the sort of forebears of slashers.
Oh, yeah.
So in a lot of ways, even though a lot of times it's not considered a slasher, it set up the blueprint that was followed later, right? With specifically the type of characters who stumble into the situation like this. So, and that would make her the final girl.
Exactly.
And a lot of times people don't consider her a final girl because she doesn't fit the current bill of final girl. But she's my favorite final girl.
She's alive at the end.
Unless you want to count Ripley. So she's my favorite, and this scene is one of the reasons. I mean, she begs for her life, she screams, but she's taking it all in. And one of the things that's great about it, of course, is that we go deep dive on her and her face and her screaming and her eyeballs. But also, mainly what we see is her perspective. It's her point of view that we're seeing with these fucking crazy people staring right at her. It's so unnerving. And then, of course, she breaks free and she jumps out a window and she saves herself. But it is a great performance, Marilyn Burns, throughout the whole movie. But, of course, everything changes for her character in this scene. And she rises to the occasion.
Yep, exactly. And that's why it's number one. All of these are great pivotal moments in these films. And it's a great topic. Thank you,
Thanks,
Maddie.
Maddie.
Great topic, dinner scenes in horror. And we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the topic. And what do you think about these? Did we miss any? I mean, we ran down a big list of honorable mentions. So I can see a lot of those getting some love because there's some good ones.
There are. But you know, it's so many movies for all the reasons that we mentioned. So many horror movies include a really good dinner scene. You know, Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
Right.
So, I mean, there are bound to be dozens of other great options. So we'd love to hear about them.
Love to hear about them. Easy way to get us on Twitter. It's Fright Club Pod. Of course, you can always find us, the main website, madwolf.com, and then you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Threads at Mad Wolf Columbus. So a lot of different ways to keep in touch. We hope you will. And since we are into October now, and so many people use October and use spooky season as an occasion to watch more horror movies than they normally do. In fact, a lot of people try to do a horror movie a day, and we respect that.
We do.
We've got a film that we hope you can work into your rotation.
That's right. Obstacle Corpse. Our movie, if you're new to the podcast, Obstacle Corpse, it is available to you on Vudu and Amazon Prime, and it's funny. There's a lot of blood, but it's mainly funny. I think some very memorable characters, a great cast. We had much fun making it. That's a lie, but
we did
in
have
retrospect,
fun.
We're glad we made it.
85 minutes. You know what? You could make it a double feature at that length.
You absolutely
can just have some fun with a double feature and work in even more horror movies for this spooky season. So yes, Obstacle Corpse. Check it out. It's on Prime. It's on Vudu. And by all means, let us know. Let us know you watched it. Let us know what you thought about it. We would love to hear from you as always as we look ahead to an action-packed October. We've already talked about being back at Gateway on the 13th for our next Fright Club live edition. Live crowd, always great at Gateway. We're going to talk about Backwoods Messiahs, and we're going to watch
Lose the Flower of Evil.
I bet not a lot of people have seen it.
I bet not a lot of people have seen it. It's
what,
so
2
good.
years ago? Last year?
Two or 3 years ago. Yeah,
pretty recent. So I expect not a lot of hands when we say how many people have seen this, which we always love. So come out and join us, and by all means, please try to make it for Nightmares Film Festival. Again, Gateway Film Center, end of the month, August 26th through the 29th, Halloween weekend.
That's right, man.
Perfect as that.
Perfect.
You get to see so many shorts and features, and there are new events this year. There's going to be a trivia night.
Yes.
There's going to be a panel on getting your movie some press with a writer from the New York Times.
Yeah, how to pitch.
So they just really up the ante every year, and I cannot wait. Check it out, Nightmares Film Festival at Gateway, the end of the month. A lot of ways to keep in touch. We hope you will. We hope to see you. Hope to hear from you. And until then, enjoy spooky season, will ya? She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast. What do you think for October, Elvira or Bruce Campbell?
Let's let Elvira do it.
Take it.
Hello, darling. This is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And stay frightful, my friend.